Yeah, straight up. Enchuka mu nkola bwe beenajja. Njagala okubeera mu kikoosi ky'abagikulembedde. Hey, ogenda ku kkanisa osangeyo Katonda naye osangayo obulimba n'ababuulira mu bukodyo. Ebyobufuzi politics abimatira naye bimumenya kuba abisangamu obukumpanya. Mu kiseera ky'okulonda obululu obuteekayo n'osuubira abulidde eggwanga lyaffe okulijja mu sso. Nze siri politician kyalindira ape eddoboozi lyange lijja mu ngeri ya revolution. Soma amawulire gajjudde contradiction obulyake ebutaamye corruption ye fashion. Ministers ziri omusanga talina nsonyi y'abaana babonaabona abagambo bamufa mufe. Osuubira ensi yaffe nayo okukyuka bakwongera bikubuza mu bwongo bakukwate. Si ye COVID gwe tulimu. Facts. You know what I'm saying? Facts. And so, and that's why I challenge MCs.
Right.
I would like to hear their predictions into time.
Right.
When we talk about writing, when we talk about
your pen game,
harnessing your craft, there's something that you've done right now will live on in the times of the future. Even when you're not present, people will find courage, inspiration, and a message to stand on.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that the mainstream was not ready for that.
Right.
And you could see that by what's happening to the brother, you know, Bobby Wine, you know what I mean?
Right.
You can see that. You get, you know, whenever you have a certain honest and blunt truth, you know, you'll always be, you know, censored.
Right.
You know, but that doesn't mean the voice is killed and caged and it shouldn't speak.
Because you still have the music.
Yeah.
It's global, like everybody can access it from from wherever they are. And it will always speak to a whole mass of people.
Yeah, and music knows no boundaries.
Right.
It crosses over.
Right.
You know, politics, religion, tradition.
Yeah.
You know, music is its own vibration.
You're giving them this knowledge.
Yeah, it's
and
a
it's
whole
just in the
mood and
record.
vibration of its own.
Right.
That actually complements all of us. That's why you see when the military is going out war, what do? Play music, they sing. It anchors them to prepare their minds to get ready to play the front line.
Yeah.
You know, when you want to tap into your God space, what do? Praise, lift your hands up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When you are sick and you're feeling down, and a song plays, it lifts your soul, a smile comes in. You understand me?
Yeah.
So there's so much potency as far as healing is concerned in the music that I always feel bad when young people limit it to entertainment.
Yeah, facts. Speaking of that, you tell us you go to Mwanza, your perspective changes. So I also want to ask something about what you picked up from the West. Because you now become something I would call a bilingual artist.
MC. Super MC.
Yeah, like your execution when you speak Luganda, when you're writing in Luganda, when you're doing your poems, when you're doing your raps, when you're doing all your deliveries in Uganda, it's like somebody could like, wait, he speaks Luganda? Like, wait, he speaks that good, dope English?
One thing that was happening being in the West, I was continuing to lose, you know, my memory and lose my understanding of the environment in which, you know, I was born in or raised in. You know, and so, you know, being able to keep myself grounded, to be passionate about language, to be passionate about knowing the bit that I could know about my culture, you know, those are things that I think for me are lessons that have come out of this continent, you know, born and raised to the age of 12.
Right.
Adolescent, you know, growing up in Canada, you know, to shape my adulthood, you know, and then doing a 360, repatriating and coming back home.
Right.
You know, so the lessons in between that was to become an honorable African, not even an honorable Ugandan.
African.
Right. Because I grew up as a black person in America.
Right.
And so regardless of me knowing where I come from and what tribe I come from, I also know what it is like to be black in America. And so with that understanding, I think it equips me, you know, to dip in my understanding of my hue, my people, how the world views us, and have full-on experience on how I should interact with it. And that's why today I walk around telling people I'm very much unapologetic about my being black or my being African. And if you want me to bring you to a closer contact, I'm also unapologetic coming from the Ango Clan, you know, Uganda, and tying myself to those lineages, you know, that show me that my history is richer than what was presented.
Right.
Yeah. Dad's death was also a blessing to power my connection to the creative industry in Uganda through the voice of hip hop. And that has been one of the commitment that have led me to come back to Uganda
every year
in Africa. It's not family. I don't come here for family. I come here for the culture that has healed me and reminded me of who I am and given me an identity that I could fully embody both my ancestral, wealth and at the same time be present, in these times to know what my contribution is to my people. So those are things that have really anchored me.
Right. So you come back, who is buzzing in Uganda? Like who?
Who's buzzing?
Or these cuts
So
that
during that time, there was people like Prim and Proper.
Yeah.
Were the female crew on the scene.
Yeah.
Out of the dungeon camp.
Yeah.
There was Perfect Generation. There was DJ Berry. Sema Timber was heading the established.
Yeah, it was just
he was putting on the Steve Jeans of the future. You know what I'm saying?
Right. See how things panned out. Yeah.
So such groups, were the groups getting around. DJ Berry before he passed,
like
those people were, at least in my awareness.
Right.
There was there were so many crews. I'm trying to recollect.
Right.
Because what happened during that time, there was a club called Power Station.
Power Station.
It was a daytime club.
I remember that.
You know what I'm saying?
I remember that.
The only place in Kampala till today I credit to spinning underground hip-hop unapologetically.
Right.
And having young people connect to hip-hop in ways that
Who
you
were the
could not.
DJs then?
It was DJ Lawrence, Lorenzo,
Right.
and DJ Katz, or Kato.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And DJ Peki. I don't know if it's in the US or London. You know what I mean? But those were the names in that space. And of course I think DJ Bobby.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Still standing.
Word.
So, there was a lot of youthfulness in that time.
Yeah.
And I would like to say that even if other people didn't have names or didn't become notable, there was so many kids emulating R&B, hip hop, and dance hall, and it felt like the whole urban scene was just coming to its fruition and prime.
Right.
To all of those talented and gifted young people who dared to do it.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I remember. I think was it the Source magazine did like top 10 African hip hop groups that took hip-hop forward. I think, was it the Source magazine or Def Jam? One of those two. And you guys appeared on there.
Yeah.
For East Africa, Bataka Squad.
I mean, a lot of people don't know because we don't brag on our accomplishments and the things that we've done. We've definitely trailblazed a lot of groundbreaking traits for people to follow.
Right.
The first, hip-hop crew that's indigenous, that rhymes in its native and local dialect that made it to Hollywood.
Right.
And not only made it to Hollywood, but performed on big stages.
Right.
And at the same time, participated in an award-winning documentary.
Right.
This is almost like almost 17 years ago now, you know? And you have to understand that the times that we did everything in, people were not about the culture.
Right.
And so there was no room and space to celebrate. But we knew that the future, we'll study, we'll learn, and we'll come by, and we'll always find the echoes of our work in the walls.
Word.
And so a lot of young people today who are like, well, who's Babaluku?
Yeah.
I don't blame you. When you dip in your understanding about the skill or the craft you're into, you'll always seek to study about it. And when you choose to study about it, you'll learn about prominent names and,
who push that.
And so I encourage young people to do that instead of debating who's the pioneer, who's the best, who's the biggest.
You've been a pioneer of using music as a tool to go to different regions in Uganda and preach. Not your lead pops preaching about the Lord, but preaching about different things that affect the community.
Yes. Liberation and redemption, self-realization, and being rooted. Reclaiming our narratives and our stories so that we can restore the dignity that our people need. That's my message.
Right.
If hip-hop allows me to do that, then why can I stop? I consider or put myself in a place that my commitment is to die living. And if I could do those things, I count myself as someone who's appreciating life and living.
Right.
You know, so, you know, my dad preached the gospel. I think I believe I'm still doing God's work.
Right.
Because any idea or any vision committed to sharing and transforming people's lives is only God's, you know, capacity to, you know, to render you or give you that.
Yeah, yeah.
So through my gift space, I know it's God's work, 110%.
Right.
You know, we might not be in the pulpits and fronting like fake pastors do today.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we out there in the ghettos, we out there in the villages, we out there in the small towns.
Right.
And we are full on having, you know, conversations with real people.
Right.
And seeking real solutions.
Right.
Not only seeking, but working with them to participate in attaining and achieving them.
Yeah, you're not just telling them to walk, you're walking with them.
Yeah, we work together, man. And I think for me, you know, R.I.P. Grandpops, R.I.P. my father, because that's what they did. And if I could look in the mirror and see that I've been blessed to follow that path,
right,
then I feel more whole. Fulfilled in my experience. So when people talk about hip-hop culture for the notable, you know, concept of you're famous, that to me is like it passes over here.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if you go on my IG, I still like being on my local vegetable stand.
Right.
I still like going in the kafunda to eat my true matoke by the women in the market.
Right.
I'm a big believer of relatives must meet. That's my diasporic upbringing.
Right.
We must meet each other to have a conversation.
Right.
So we could fully understand where we stand. To grow our value, to support and complement each other.
Right.
And that's why that cross-continental, you know, diasporic connection happened. And, you know, it came out of, you know, my understanding that it was important to create an idea or a vision that brought us together so we could drop our titles and all of these identities that we're struggling with to form a new conversation of can we heal together?
Right.
You know, so that's how we started Back to the Source, right? So Back to the Source has been happening for 6 years now.
Yeah.
You know, a gift to my community of young leaders to evaluate themselves on why they possess the gift they possess.
Right.
Why do they have the urge to want to serve the people?
Right.
And where does the influence of those that they attract come from? Like, and then how can they use now that understanding to walk back in their communities and know that they're valuable, they're contributing, and that they are participating in the vision forward. You know, so Back to the Source has allowed me to learn more on what leadership is from an African-rooted context. Not from a traditional education context,
African-rooted,
but an African-rooted approach. You know, how do we look in our communities and how do we find the problems and how do we become the solution of those problems?
But M1 comes through. That's one of the brother that is like, you know, so conscious about the lyrics that he puts in is it's always tied to Africa or something.
Yeah, Black liberation. So how do I get to host M1 at Back to the Source?
Right.
Matter of fact, you just met my bro who was behind it. It was sitting right there.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So he was doing something and he partnered with Talent 256.
Right.
And when I saw his logo on there, I reached out to him. I said, yo, y'all bringing M1?
Right.
And you taking him to perform at a club? Hold up. Like, do you know who M1 is? Like, you know?
Yeah.
And from reaching out, he asked me to write something that they could forward to the management team to see if they were interested.
Interested in that.
So I gave him a short narrative about Back to the Source. And respect and love to our brother Wed, you know, James Wed, he literally responded and said, brother, what are you talking about? That's what we want to do when we come to Uganda.
Yeah,
you know, we have to
what they
go
keep preaching in their records.
Yeah, we have to go through that experience.
Yeah.
So, you know, so through that connection, I was able to get a day with M1 to walk into the lens of Back to the Source and what we do. And so we created an experience for him to be welcomed in Uganda. We also journeyed with him as a community to go back to the source. So we took him to the source of the Nile. We also took him to our usual, you know, landscape Cypher. We do a Cypher in Mbiko every year in Ginger. So we also did a community Cypher. So he literally got to move with us in the energy of what we've been birthing on this land through young leadership
Right.
and through young hip-hop practitioners that we call builders,
Right.
you know, to share stories and to elevate and be welcomed in a way that hip-hop culture would.
And without a doubt, I think it's going to go down as one of the most dopest experiences that he's ever had.
Oh, sure. Not only him, even me.
Right.
When I was growing up in Canada, and I was facing racism, police brutality,
Right.
and learning the ground on which I'm living, that black people were not, you know, appreciated in a way that I thought.
Right.
It was Dead Prayers that educated me.
Right.
So to have an opportunity to host him, not only on a stage, not
Right.
only on a mic, but at the source,
Yeah.
I think for me it was one of the best hip-hop gifts in my entire life.
Right.
To have a chance to say thank you for saving my life through
Right.
your music.
Right.
Because every time I was going through something, I would play Dead Prayers.
Yeah.
To remind myself that I'm still great and that Africa is home and that I will be back home.
Right.
And that I will be someone who contributes. These are values that came from their sound bites. So to have them eating in the market in Mike Afunda with me at Napier Market in Ginger.
Sharing experience.
You understand me?
Right.
Like those are moments that are bigger than any, I don't know what your dreams are.
Yeah.
But my dream is to always get a chance to say thank you.
Word.
So to have an opportunity to do that, that was like a moment,
Yeah.
you know, and I know we all
Still
felt
hold
it.
it dear to your heart.
Yeah, man, it's a moment, like being in this culture, like people always like to take from people.
Right.
I like the idea that I could always be a point of giving.
Good giver, the
So we
great
could
giver.
build more
Yeah.
to give. You know what I mean?
You heard
So
about
that's the
that?
gift.
You heard about the line? Good givers are great getters?
There you go. You know,
Yeah.
good giver, the great. Yeah, the blessing don't run out.
Right.
I've learned that.